Toka kwenye quick ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickly ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Good afternoon. This is Channel 1 Lunchtime News. I trust you're having a lovely Friday so far. Well, our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. My name is Jackline Wambiru. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up this afternoon. And remember, this is an interactive segment whereby you can reach us on our Twitter handles at KBC Channel 1 or at Jackline Wambiru. Now, to kick us off, we kick off with the search for the next Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, which enters its last day. Lawyer Alice Yano is facing the JSC panel, where she is the youngest candidate applying for the CJ position. 13 applicants applied for the job, but only 10 met the minimum qualifications. Now, let's listen in.
Justice. There's another side that believes that given the backdrop, and if we were to select a female Chief Justice, which could be you, then we would have 3 ladies, only one gender, steering the ship of the judiciary in the form of the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, and the Chief Registrar being ladies. Their view is that maybe this is not the time to have a lady Chief Justice. I want to hear your views, especially given your background on maendeleo ya wanawake, which basically means, to me, promoting women's rights. What are your views?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Honor. I wish I had seen those statistics, because I think from how we view it ourselves from outside there is...
Well, that's the ongoing search for the next Chief Justice, which has entered its last day. There were 10 shortlisted applicants, and that is after a vigorous selection exercise. Upon completion of vetting, the JSC is required to submit the name of successful nominees to the President within 7 days. The President is then required to forward the name to Parliament for vetting and approval. And if Parliament rejects the nominees, JSC will restart the process. Now, in other news, the Senate Committee on Health has summoned Kisumu Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o to appear before the committee to respond to audit queries on the utilization of COVID-19 funds. The committee says the governor has failed to honor invitations and now risks a fine not exceeding 500,000 or prosecution for undermining Parliament.
The Senate Committee on Health has for the third time summoned Kisumu County government to shed light on how Kisumu County used millions of shillings meant to fight COVID-19. The committee, through the clerk of the Senate, has warned the governor against playing hide and seek with matters accountability. The committee says the governor risks being fined some 500,000 shillings or arrest for undermining the Senate. Governor Nyong'o is among county bosses who is accused by the Auditor General of failing to oversee responsible utilization of funds meant to fight COVID-19 in counties. In the special audit, the Auditor General says counties utilize the funds without factoring in issues such as the budget and proper procurement plans. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Moving on, National Assembly's Implementation Committee has accused the National Environment Management Authority of engaging in an unholy alliance with the London Distillers Limited in a matter that is before the committee pitting the distiller and Alderman Property Limited. The distiller had written to Speaker Justin Muturi charging that members of the committee had received bribes from Alderman so as to rule against it.
A parliamentary committee is in the eye of a storm following allegations that it had received bribes from a petitioner. The Alderman Property Limited had petitioned the Implementation Committee for the closure of a London Distillers Limited on allegations of pollution. While the National Assembly Standing Committee on Environment had returned a verdict against the distiller, accusing them of pollution, NEMA was yet to close the company, leading to the petition by Alderman. 2 weeks ago, the distiller wrote to Speaker Justin Muturi, accusing some members of a Moitalel Olekenta-led committee of taking bribes from the real estate developer. The Implementation Committee is now accusing NEMA of engaging in an unholy alliance with LDK by appearing to side with the distiller. Kenta, who is a Narok North MP, has however dismissed the allegations by LDK on bribery, terming them as concerted efforts aimed at tainting the image of its members.
If we were a malicious committee, or if our members were malicious, and if we wanted to benefit from any quotas, I think LDK should not be operating now. We should just say, close it. If we are paid by somebody to close it. Why is it taken us 60 months then to pay back for whoever is given us, whatever the houses they've given us? According to Kenta, the Powers and Privileges Committee chaired by Speaker Justin Muturi is investigating the bribery allegations by LDK, insisting that their work is above board. We visited LDK and we spoke to the workers there, and they begged us, don't close the factory because we will suffer. And there are many of them. And we assured them. And that's why we have been giving NEMA all these chances. We have heard about the plight of those people who are also crying because of pollution.
Members of the committee want sanctions against Environment CAS Mohammed Elmi and NEMA boss Mwamo Boru Mamo, accusing them of cover-up.
Unless you direct us to have this public participation meeting, for us, we will continue looking at those parameters even after these results are out. If we note any issue of non-compliance from any quarter, whether it is EPL or LDK, we will take appropriate enforcement action.
Police in Mandera County have arrested a middle-aged woman who was in possession of a firearm without a permit. Appearing before Mandera Senior Resident Magistrate Mukafi Kemani, 24-year-old Jamila Maalim Hussein pleaded guilty, saying she was taking the firearm to a potential buyer.
It was the end of the road for a middle-aged woman who was in possession of illegal firearms after police arrested her on Thursday when she tried to make her way to Mandera County from Somalia. According to Mandera Police Commander George Seda, the police record shows that the suspect stole an AK-47 rifle from a Somalia National Army officer in Bulahawa, Somalia. The firearm had a magazine loaded with at least 13 rounds of ammunition. It's alleged that Jamila entered Kenya from Somalia and proceeded to Busili Estate, passing through Mandera town unnoticed by the police.
We went and searched where she had gone to 4 various places, the 4 houses. Finally, we went to a house where she went first. In the first case, we found that firearm hidden in a house. So this firearm was an AK, and the statement that he was trying to give us was that she had been given by another person who was residing with the...
Elsewhere, police officers will be posted to the new Nokoperi police post in Kitengela, constructed through the national government. According to his senior sub-county police commander Anderson Njagi, the officers are ready for deployment in the area to help enhance security.
The security issues is not... we had only one issue of murder last about 2 weeks ago, and we have arrested the culprit. The matter is pending before court.
The issue of this police post, as the hospitals agreed to bring officers here, we should be very happy. In fact, it is going to curb that problem of insecurity in this area, and will stay peacefully.
Meanwhile, DCI officers in Kericho County have arrested a man at Kapsoi Trading Center who is alleged to have manufactured fake second-generation liquor. A total of 20 boxes of white cane and a blue 100 liters drum suspected to be containing methanol was also nabbed.
We've been looking for these people for quite some time now. But today we had a breakthrough and we got this individual with his about 6 workers who are there. Now, what we have today is around 44 cartons, labeled differently, but the content is the same.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
And let's cross over to Kitui County, where a 15-year-old girl is seeking justice after she was allegedly defiled by her father. The teenager says her father took away her innocence in the absence of her mother, who had allegedly left home to organize a wedding. The girl's mother says she has reported the matter to the police and her husband is on the run.
Narrating the ordeal, the 15-year-old said her mother had left home to her maternal home to help in preparing for her younger sister's wedding when the incident happened.
Alafu sasa nilipokuwa nikimpea torch ndo sasa aliniambia kuja tulale na wewe hapa kwangu. Mimi nikakataa na nikarudi kitandani mwangu kulala. Nikiwa hapo sasa ndo alikuwa ananiambia umeamua aje? Namuuliza kuamua nini? Ananiambia venye nimekuambia. Namwambia mimi sitaki hizo story zako. Na mimi nikaacha amelala na mimi nimeenda kulala na mimi nimelala. Sasa mimi sikujua ilikuwa saa ngapi. Ndio nilijipata kwa juu yangu na sikujua venye alipokuja.
According to the girl's mother, her husband has been calling and begging her to go back home but leave their daughter at her maternal home.
Babake alimrebu usiku. Kutoka hapo nikaendea mtoto, kampeleka waita polisi. Kutoka hapo tukaenda Mwingi. Alafu tukafanya kila kitu. Tukarudi nyumbani. Sasa niko kwetu nyumbani sababu ya hiyo case.
Helena Ken, Kitui County Executive Committee member in charge of gender, sports and culture, said such societal ills will not be tolerated and anyone found committing such heinous acts will face the full force of the law.
Nimekuja hapa kuambia tena ya kwamba I am not leaving any stone unturned. Kesi ya mwanaume kulala na binti yake, kusema ule ukweli, ni nini kinawasumbua? Ni nini kinawasumbua?
She has urged mothers not to shy away from reporting such cases to the authorities. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Well, that report by Caroline Kamau brings us to a fast break here on Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickbit ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Sauti ya Kenya 92.9. Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
Kila kitu maishani sina sauti yaleta furaha. Sauti ya elimisha yahimiza yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya
Radio Taifa.
Sauti ya Kenya.
Next M.
Wewe sasa ndio nini kama wanishtua hapa? siku 3 wewe umetafuta hizo pesa na umeniletea. Siku 3 sio natoa hadi 3. Mimi sitaki kujua. Kama mfanye nini? Mimi sisi ndio kwa kukaliki. Ndio mgongo. Alafu sasa ndio samba. Ndio mgongo.
Welcome back. Over 100 youth in Naivasha sub-county have undergone technical training to help them wade through economic turbulence occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The training, which was sponsored by the United Methodist Church, saw the youth acquire skills in hairdressing, design, baking, among others. Let's take a look.
The Inua Partners in Hope program, supported by the church and well-wishers from the United States, was brought in as a remedial measure to the devastating economic effects of COVID-19 in parts of Nakuru County. The training focused on hairdressing, design, baking, among others. The over 100 youth who completed a one-year training program received startup kits for the next step in life, with Reverend Paul Matheri of the United Methodist Church saying the move was geared towards ensuring the youth are self-reliant.
They are the breadwinners. They look for their siblings, na kuna wengine ambao pia ni wazazi, maana pia wanasaidia wazazi wao, maana either wazazi wao hawajiwezi kwa njia moja ama nyingine. Na baada ya kuwafundisha wamebadilika. Tuko na watu ambao zaidi ya 450 ambao wametoka kwa hii program kutoka 2010.
Matheri challenged the government to partner with them in training more of the youths from poor backgrounds who are keen on vocational courses.
Zile courses ambazo mtu anasoma sababu uko na degree ama uko na zile cheti huwezi fanya kazi nyingine, unajidanganya. Ukitaka kufika mahali lazima ufanye kazi ya mkono, lazima uinvest kwa kazi za mkono, because saa hii Kenya ni kuundwa inaundwa.
Advantage ya technical course ni kwamba hautakosa. You don't need employment. Hii course unajiemploy wewe mwenyewe na hakuna venye utawahi kosa kazi. Kama saizi vijana wanazurura, wengi wako na madegree, wanatafuta kazi za mikono.
The well-wishers are now seeking the assistance of the county government to acquire a parcel of land to construct a garage to train more youth.
Wangeweza kutujengea a modern garage na wa-equip iwe incubation center badala ya kupeleka watoto kwa these juakari garages. Hiyo ni ingekuwa ni mzuri kwa sababu itakuwa ni transfer of technology na itasaidia mji wetu wa Naivasha.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Now, in the political arena, Juja Parliamentary aspirant George Wambiru claims that his life is in danger, alleging that he has received threatening calls from unknown people who he says have been trailing him. Wambiru, who is vying on a People's Empowerment Party ticket, is also accusing his political rivals of spreading negative propaganda about his candidate.
The People's Empowerment Party's candidate in the Juja by-election, George Wambiru, now claims that his life is in danger, alleging that he has received threatening calls from unknown people who he says have been trailing him.
Wakati niliamua kuzima simu, nilizima simu sababu kuna threats ambazo zilikuwa zinatoka kila pahali ndio niweze kustep down. Nikaamua kuzima simu ningojee tarehe 18, lakini siwezi toka kwa lengo langu la kuwania kiti cha ubunge Juja.
His political rivals of spreading negative propaganda about his candidature, vowing not to relent in his quest to clinch their seat.
Kuna allegations ambazo zimekuwa zikiwekwa kotini ya kwamba kuna some forged documents, ikiwa njia moja ya kuniuzia uoga nisiweze kusimama kiti cha ubunge Juja. Lakini hayo mambo yako kotini, hatuwezi yazungumzia siku ya leo, lakini niko na uhakika on Monday, sababu niliandika barua nikasema nitajipeleka mimi mwenyewe kotini Jumatatu asubuhi Kiambu. Nitaenda niweze kuelezea koti jambo hili pahali linatoka, ambalo tunajua kabisa ni mambo tu na siasa, kuharibiana majina, na hiyo ni kitu ambayo tumeizoea.
and the Nyamira County Assembly premises have remained closed. The chaos is the Speaker Mofatea, whom a section of the County Assembly members accuse of favoring the rival camp.
Ile shida iliyoko imeletwa na Speaker wa Assembly kwa sababu amekataa tusikizane.
Mimi ile nasikia uchungu ni hao wafanyabiashara. Ni huyu mama mboga ambaye amefungiwa, ni huyu mtu anauza uji hapa, amefungiwa tangu asubuhi saa 12 walipofungua mpaka saa hizi inaelekea saa 4. Biashara zimefungwa na sababu ya ionekani, watu wanafukuzwa kwa nini? If we are fighting as MCAs, let us fight in the county assembly. And if they need to deploy the police, let them deploy within the blessings of the assembly.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.
Now, still on matters politics, the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal has temporarily suspended the removal of Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala as the Deputy Minority Leader in the Senate. Senator Malala had filed a petition with the tribunal challenging his ouster, accusing the Orange Democratic Movement of orchestrating and executing the illegality under the guise of the National Super Alliance. On 24th March 2021, senators allied to the National Super Alliance allegedly removed Malala from the position for gross misconduct and for allegedly bringing the coalition to disrepute. Now, the government is urging everyone who is yet to pick their Huduma number cards to do so from their respective collection centres. Garissa County Commissioner Mary Mwangi says there has been a low turnout of Kenyans collecting the cards, as only 996 out of 3,995 Huduma cards have been collected so far in the county. Speaking after touring the Garissa Huduma Center in Garissa County Commissioner Mary Mwangi expressed concern over the number of Kenyans heeding calls to pick their Huduma number cards.
Garissa ishapokea cards 3,955 na baadhi ya hizo ambazo zimepokelewa tuko na sub county 8, Garissa ikiwa moja ya hizo. Tuko na barabara, tuko na Fafi, tuko na Ijara, tuko na Hurugo, na mwisho tuko na mwisho yake huko Liboi. Na wale zile ambazo kadi zote zimeweza kushukuliwa na wenyewe ni 996, na tunaona ya kwamba 2,899 bado hazijachukuliwa.
Mwangi adding that a campaign aimed at enlightening members of the public on the importance of the Huduma card has kicked off at the sub-county level, spearheaded by the national government administration offices.
Tunataka kuhimiza ngao fraternity wote washirikiane na wale ambao ni wafanyakazi wa serikali wanaofanya katika Huduma Center na katika registration offices zetu zote katika sub counties, ndio tuhakikisha kwamba multi agency imefanya kazi, tuhakikisha kwamba hizi cards ambazo wananchi wamepata kwa sababu wao ndio waliapply na zimefika, waweze kutafutwa na waweze kuzipata kadi zao.
Mwangi said the Huduma number card aims to consolidate all services in one document for easy access and delivery of services to Kenyans. Abdiwahab Ares, a registration officer at the centre, however, noted that some individuals may have lost their phone numbers or deleted their notification messages, thus posing a challenge to the collection exercise. And on human-wildlife conflict, a 17-year-old boy has been attacked and killed by an elephant at Ipan village in Samburu County. Confirming the incident, Samburu Police Commander Samson Ogelo said the body of the boy had had injuries on the head, chest and limbs. The body was taken to Mara Referral Hospital mortuary. He called on the residents to be careful whenever they go grazing in deep forest. Now, across borders, hundreds of mourners, including family members and activists, have attended the funeral of a black man who was shot dead by police in Minneapolis. Dante Wright, 20 years old, was killed during a routine traffic stop in the Brooklyn Center suburb of the city on 11th April.
The spate of incidents in Minneapolis has triggered national outrage and widespread protests. They also prompted the U.S. Justice Department to launch an investigation into the practices and conduct of the city's police department. Elsewhere, the African Union has condemned the extension of the term of Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo and is sending a special envoy to Mogadishu to help resolve the political impasse there. The AU's Peace and Security Council made the announcement after hours of closed-door meeting where it also resolved to mediate the crisis. Last week, Farmajo controversially approved an extension of his term in office by 2 years, but the move has been criticized by major world powers, including the United States and Britain, the United Nations and the European Union. Finally, at least 13 patients have died after a fire broke out in the intensive care unit of an Indian hospital treating COVID patients near Mumbai. The blaze, which took place early on Friday, was extinguished and 4 survivors have been moved to nearby hospitals.
And now into the business world, counties have been urged to set aside land for industrial development as a way of creating economic development and job opportunities. Trade Chief Administrative Secretary David Osiani said counties will benefit by promoting their own enterprises and increase the attraction of their goods by creation of local industries.
The Public Finance Management Act requires county governments to set up aside a minimum of 30% of their allocated budget towards development. However, the Budget Policy Statement 2018 reviews the development expenditure for the past 5 years and notes that for a substantive number of counties, actual development expenditure barely hits the minimum mark. This notwithstanding, there is still enough to empower local economies through the creation of factors of production like land.
Waulizane na wapate suluhu bora ili watenge mahali intakazoitwa industrial development zones za county.
The national government estimates that Busia County, for example, would benefit immensely once it identifies land for industrial development, as it did by donating 40 acres for the planned 1.5 billion shillings Jumuiya market.
County zingine zikiwemo Nakuru County iliyotenga ekari 1000 kule Naivasha ili ikuwe special economic zone. Homa Bay County imetenga ekari karibu 200 ambapo tutaenda kuweka export processing zone. Tumeomba Busia County kama viongozi ambao wanapenda maendeleo kwamba watenge ekari kadhaa.
At the same time, residents, especially in border counties, have been challenged to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area in Uganda to market their products.
Ningependa sana kwamba wanabiashara wetu na wale wengine wanaotoka sehemu hizi za Busia na Kenya nzima waweze kukua na uwezekano wa kupeleka vifaa na bidhaa katika Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Waondoe vitu hapa Busia, wauze kule Uganda.
Na tunasema ya kwamba tutaungana kikamilifu na department ya Wizara ya Industrialization ili tuweze kuhakikisha ya kwamba wananchi wanafaidika. Tumezungumzia pia usaidizi ambao unaweza kupatikana kusaidia wananchi katika zile small industries.
Currently, only Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, Makueni, Machakos and Kajiado counties are among the counties that either have special economic zones under development or are already operational. Alan Auko, Channel 1 Business.
And on our interview segment this afternoon, we're joined by George Mburu, who is the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes, and we shall be taking a look at matters, the cost of construction. Well, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now to kick us off, developers are yet to shift to the low-end housing segment as they are discouraged by various market factors such as the high cost of land, energy, finance, poor infrastructure, and building materials, among others. So we kick off with taking a look at, when we look at land, the high cost of prime land, especially in residential areas, high density areas, proximity to the city, maybe what measures can be put in place to mitigate the cost of land in the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is George Mburu, and I'm the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes Limited. And you have correctly said that the cost of construction is at the moment quite high. And this is because of the constraints that you have put across, like the cost of the building materials, the cost of land itself is quite exorbitant, especially when you come to areas that are near towns. And this is because you find that access to most of those prime plots is there, and that is why you find the land is quite expensive. But you'll be surprised that there are areas that are not so far, but because of the poor road networks, you find that the value or the cost of those land is very low. And what I would like to encourage the government and the county governments especially, because we understand with the devolution the housing part has been devolved, we can encourage them, and also with the partnership with the government, to make sure that they create road networks, because there are huge chunks of land that are not very far. And again, you'll find that a place with a good road, it is very easy to get there, because with a good road network, accessing the land is easy. So if those roads are made and those areas are opened up, we will even actually decongest these areas that we call decongested, because they are congested because they are near the towns, and again they are accessible. But you find there is a big chunks of land that are not so far from town, but accessibility becomes a problem. So what I would like to encourage is for the government to ensure that they open up those roads, they create the road networks, because we have seen with the roads that are being constructed, we have seen with the railways, areas that could previously not be accessed, they are now easily accessed, and creating value for the land that was previously had no value. And when we come to the cost of construction materials, we as private developers like us, Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, we have constructed these affordable houses, and now we have learned some of the challenges that people are facing, and we have appreciated that most of the materials that are used for construction, like the stones, like sand, ballast, all these things are locally available. It's only that maybe the transportation is what you find expensive, but the other things like cement and steel, you find, and also things like iron, they make the paint, the finishing materials, tiles, you find them because of the VAT that is put and the tax. They are also a bit on the high end. So if these materials that are used in construction that are taxed, they are coming from the manufacturing, let's say cement, paint, tiles, steels, if those things can be subsidized for the people who are doing the affordable houses, say if it is the private developers or if it is the government, those materials are subsidized, because we have other materials like the stones, I'm sure the cost of construction would come down. Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about taxation, maybe also we look at the issuance of permits. Maybe help us paint a picture how it is and if it affects the cost of the development budget.
Yeah. Another place where the county governments come in is when issuing of the approvals and allowing people to do the construction, because you need the approvals and to be permitted. Yeah, that's another area that I would like to encourage the county governments. let's invite these private developers as we also join hands to do the private partnership, the way the national government does the PP, the public-private partnership. The counties can also get involved with the public-private partnership, because housing is a devolved, part of the devolved government. So they can invite the private developers, and like us, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited are very ready to show them because it's very easy. People are there who are very qualified. We have qualified architects, we have qualified surveyors, we have qualified engineers, and these people, it is only expensive if you are just doing a single project as a person. To hire them, you find it is expensive, because let's say an architect is charging you, let's say 40,000 or 50,000. You get a surveyor is charging you the same, a lawyer. But when you are doing this thing in lump sum, when you are many, let's say when as a private developer or together with the county, it becomes cheaper. And also the counties, I would encourage them. Let's encourage people. Those approvals, let's not make them to be very tedious, very cumbersome. The rules, I'm happy with most of the counties, with the devolved government. They have continued to reduce some of the bylaws that were very, very refraining. They are trying. So I would encourage even those who have not started to do it, and those who are doing it to encourage even more. Encourage people to bring those approvals. They will be passed. And also let's do the water drainage. We also give the water. And also I would also call upon the Kenya Power. The Kenya Power powers the electricity all over Kenya. Let them also be involved. When somebody does a construction, be fast enough to give the electricity, and when you do that, housing will be not a problem anymore. People will have houses, and housing will not be looked at as a problem. Yeah.
Okay, when we take a look at labor, the skilled labor and expertise, does it vary in the major towns and in the grassroots? Maybe how does that go along?
Yeah, you find that there are very few. Like, I was also very surprised to learn that in the whole of Kenya, there are only a very few registered architects. We have around maybe from 1,000 to 2,000, which is a very small number for a country that has over 47,000 population. You find that getting the skilled professionals like architects, engineers, all those people, it's not easy. And that's why you find like most of the people in the rural areas, because you can't find an architect, because they are very few. You find most of the time they just rely on the foremen or on the fundis who have maybe just learned the skill of construction at home. But I can also encourage these courses, some of these courses like architects, civil engineers, all those professions to be taken up, and those people to be actually encouraged and paid well. Because when they are paid well, people will also be attracted to join those jobs, and they are also given the opportunity to serve. Like you can be surprised that we have very good architects, but they are not employed. And they went through school, and you'll also be surprised they are not very many. So that's also a challenge. We need to utilize our professionals, and also encourage the professionals who have studied. They get the jobs, and they are well paid. And when you do that, we are going to have much skilled labor, which is needed, because the casual laborers, the other labor is available. It's actually in plenty. Yeah, thank you.
When we look at technology adopted while constructing various houses or buildings across the country, maybe what measures can be put in place to bring down the cost of construction?
Yeah, the good thing with we as Africans and Kenyans in particular is that we have a lot of locally available natural resources, because like you go in Darugu, we have quarries. Those quarries have stones. And you go to other developed countries, finding such is not there. So we have the privilege of having these materials that are natural, like stones. You just need a machine to cut. You will find finding sand. You just need to go to the river, and the sand is scooped. We have rock sand, we have quarry dust. All these things are locally available. The only things that manufactured are cement and things like steel, which if they are subsidized in price, they're also going to bring the cost of construction in general down. But in Kenya, we have a lot of those locally available materials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When we take a look at policy and regulations, perhaps which policies and guidelines can be adopted to lower the cost of construction in the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing that we would appreciate is that the role of public-private partnership is very crucial, especially when we are talking of one of the big four agendas, which is affordable housing. It is very crucial because we know the government had planned to do 500,000 units by the 5 years, and the need is 2 million. So if the government was to provide the 500,000, there will still be a deficit of 1.5 million units, which are still needed. So thereby the private developers would have to get in. And it's not hard, because for us, with this Africa Homes Limited, we have seen you just need a small number of people. Like for us, we do small projects of, let's say, 20 units, and we invite 20 people. We join hands, we buy the parcel of land, we subdivide it, and we do the construction. You find that when you are doing it as a group, you don't even have to be developers or developers per se. You can be in a group of 20 people, join hands, do your due diligence, buy a parcel of land, because it's important to do your due diligence, get a clean piece of land, and you start the construction together. Because when you join hands, this person brings in their small input, and your small input, you'll be able to hire qualified personnel, you'll be able to supervise the labor, and you'll be able to get your houses at an affordable price and fast.
Well, there you have it. Well, thank you so much, George Mburu, for gracing us with your presence. That was the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes, and we were discussing the cost of construction across the country. Well, that brings us to the end of our interview segment, and moving on, the government plans to train thousands of small and medium enterprises in a bid to develop their business management skills. The capacity building program is targeting 50,000 trainees and an additional 1,000 trainers of trainers. Trade and Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Betty Minor has said the program will be rolled out jointly with Stanbic Bank.
SMEs play a vital role in driving economic growth and development and contribute to over 30% of the GDP. To this end, Stanbic Bank have today signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise to support the country's trade and industrialization development agenda, as well as micro, small and medium enterprise sector. This move comes at a time when Kenya is in trade dialogues with various partners to prioritize industrialization as a key Big Four agenda, while still recovering from the negative impacts of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development Betty Minor said partnering with players in the private sector through various intervention programs will allow SMEs reach their full potential.
Will also include and support to undertaking surveys on micro and small enterprises so that government initiatives and government response can be informed by data.
Partnership will be able to support our SMEs so that they can get into, they can jumpstart their operation and grow.
The small traders will receive support on government trade negotiations, capacity building and enterprise development, entrepreneurial training, access to finance and access to market. The capacity building program is targeting to reach 50,000 trainees and an additional 1,000 trainers of trainees. The move will not only empower the enterprises to take their businesses to the next level, but it will also contribute to the larger agenda of driving Kenya's economic growth. Stanbic Bank CEO Charles Mudiwa further said the bank is focused on offering value beyond financial services, as well as the development of the country's social pillars by leveraging on established networks, available resources, and strategic partnerships to inject investments into key sectors that align with government's larger Big Four agenda.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to propose a tax hike on the wealthiest Americans. The proposal would raise the top marginal rate and increase taxes on investment gains for the rich and help pay for childcare and education, but would not be used for healthcare, according to reports. Details of these and other stories in our Global Business News Roundup.
The news triggered a sell-off on Wall Street, with major indices slipping during Thursday's trading session. The White House said that the American Family Plan, which Biden is expected to lay out in the full next week, will not affect any family earning less than $400,000 a year. The proposal would increase the top marginal income tax rate to 39.6% from 37%. Elsewhere, the Tokyo Motor Show has been cancelled for the first time in its 67-year history due to rising virus cases. The cancellation of the event comes even as the organizers of the Summer Olympics push ahead with their plans. It comes as Japan is expected to declare a state of emergency for Tokyo, Osaka, and 2 other prefectures from 25th April to 11th May. Japan is facing a surge in COVID-19 cases, driven by more infectious variants of the virus. The Tokyo Motor Show, which started in 1954 and is usually held every 2 years, had been scheduled to go ahead in October. Finally, Britain recorded the largest budget deficit in peacetime history in the fiscal year that ended in March, albeit a smaller one that had been expected. A $39 billion budget deficit in March took the shortfall for 2020-2021 as a whole to £303.1 billion, the equivalent of 14.5% of gross domestic product, the Office for National Statistics said on Friday. Borrowing in the current fiscal year is still forecast to total well over £200 billion, 4 times the deficit in the year before the pandemic struck. The DMO announced after the Office of the Chancellor of the British Exchequer's budget that it planned to issue £295.9 billion of gifts following sales of £485.5 billion in 2020-2021.
And in the sports arena, reigning Kenyan champions, Kenya Prisons will take on Tunisia's champion Sfaxien tonight in their second match at the ongoing Africa Women's Volleyball Club Championship in Kelebia, Tunisia. Kenya Prisons and Kenya Pipeline are Kenya's representatives at the continental showpiece.
The Kenyan champions will be targeting to maintain their good run after trouncing Muzinga of Burundi by 3 straight sets in their opening match. Veteran tactician David Lungaho will peg his hope on experienced players led by Praxede Zagala, Diana Kisa, Florence Busire and Lydia Mayo. Lungaho is, however, optimistic the current squad is up to the task, despite missing several regular players who are currently training with the national team Malkia Strikers ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. Kenya Prisons are drawn in Pool A alongside Sfaxien of Tunisia, Muzinga of Burundi, Kelebia of Tunisia, and Walieta Sodo of Ethiopia. Compatriots Kenya Pipeline are drawn in Pool B alongside Carthage of Tunisia, National Alcohol of Ethiopia, Customs of Nigeria, ASEC Mimosa, and AS Douane of Burkina Faso. Kenya's representatives, Kenya Prisons and Kenya Pipeline, are tipped among favourites to bag this year's title in the absence of defending champions Al Ahly of Egypt. Karanja David for Channel 1 Sports.
Arsenal coach Mikel Arteta has confirmed that forwards Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexander Lacazette are ruled out of the clash with Everton today due to illness and injury respectively. Meanwhile, Leicester opened a 4-point gap in third place with a 3-0 victory over relegation-threatened West Brom at the King Power Stadium last night.
Yeah, it's got him behind Townsend, and Jamie Vardy puts Leicester City in front.
3 goals in the 13 first-half minutes did the damage as Leicester City defeated visitors West Brom 3-0 to open a 4-point gap in the third place. Striker Jamie Vardy gave Leicester an early lead in the 23rd minute before Johnny Evans added a second 3 minutes later. Kelechi Iheanacho sealed the victory in the 36th minute.
Fana, Evans and Soyuncu all set to make their move. And it's Johnny Evans who mops up. Well, it was pinball. Corner kick. Still with Vardy. Iheanacho. Yet another for Kelechi Iheanacho. Set up by Jamie Vardy.
The win takes Leicester 4 points clear in the third place of the Premier League table, with 6 games remaining. Arsenal's coach Mikel Arteta has confirmed that forwards Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexandre Lacazette are ruled out of Arsenal's clash with Everton today due to illness and injury respectively. However, Martin Odegaard is in light training after an ankle problem and will be assessed, but David Luiz and Kieran Tierney remain sidelines. Everton are boosted by the return of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who has recovered from abductor injury, while Yerry Mina, Bernard Adri Gomez and Fabian Delph